author of A Time for Truth, Reigniting the Promise of America, and of course, just moments ago, confirmed to have finished third place in New Hampshire. Senator Cruz, congratulations. That's a big night for you in a state like New Hampshire, isn't it?
Well, Mike, thank you. It was a fantastic night. It defied all the predictions. This has now been 2 elections in a row. Going back a week ago in Iowa, all the pundits on television said we could not win. There was no chance we could win, and we won a stunning victory, taking first place in Iowa, astonishing all the predictors. And then all those same pundits, all the Washington establishment voices said, well, okay, fine, Cruz can win in a conservative state like Iowa, but there's no way he can do well in a moderate New England state like New Hampshire. And once again, the conservative grassroots shattered expectations, and we finished a strong third last night, and it really is a testament to the over 200,000 volunteers we have nationwide and to the hunger people have for a strong, principled conservative who will be faithful to the Constitution and defend liberty.
Moments after the results were read out of New Hampshire, all the focus, of course, is now on South Carolina and the ground
Sure.
game there, what's going to happen in South Carolina. I think it's very fair to say that you expect South Carolina to be very, very good to the Cruz campaign.
Well, we have a phenomenal team here on the ground in South Carolina. I'm in Myrtle Beach right now, headed to a big rally, and we're going to be campaigning every day from now until February 20th across the state. But our strength here really is the same as the strength we had in Iowa, the same as the strength we had in New Hampshire, which, Mike, what we're seeing is that old Reagan coalition coming back together. We're seeing conservatives and evangelicals and libertarians. We're seeing young people and Reagan Democrats all standing together. And I think South Carolina is a very strong state for us. The support we have from pastors across the state and from leaders in each of the 46 counties in South Carolina is very, very strong. And South Carolina is going to play a key role in choosing whether the Republican nominee is a proven conservative or simply a candidate who talks the talk on the trail but hasn't walked the walk.
Let's throw in some variables because Donald Trump is polling very well in South Carolina. In fact, a lot of people say if they had to guess, he's got the edge right now in the Palmetto State. Also, South Carolina has historically been very good to the Bush family. Jeb Bush obviously hopes to do well in South Carolina. Let's talk about the Donald Trump and Jeb Bush factor as it applies to Ted Cruz as he campaigns in South Carolina.
Well, sure. Look, Jeb Bush got a new lease on life last night. He finished in 4th place. He finished ahead of Marco Rubio. I think that energized the Jeb Bush campaign. John Kasich also had a good night. He finished in 2nd place. I think you're going to see Kasich and Jeb Bush and Marco Rubio all fighting it out for the establishment lane. And in South Carolina, I expect that to be a bloody battle. Donald Trump, right now, he is polling well, but it's interesting. He draws some of his votes from the liberal and establishment lane, and he draws some of his votes from conservatives, many of whom are not familiar with his record, many of whom don't know that Donald, for 60 years of his life, described himself as very, very pro-choice and supported partial birth abortion. Many of whom don't know that Donald enthusiastically supported Barack Obama's TARP bailout of the big banks, and also supported Obama's stimulus, in fact, said it should be larger. And so I think South Carolina voters are very, very similar to the men and women of Texas. As a Texan, I feel very comfortable in this state. We're Southerners, we're conservative. Great many of us are evangelical or Southern Baptist. We are many Texans and South Carolinians are veterans, and we love God and are gun owners, and we're fed up with what's happening in Washington. And I think that is the right mix to support a proven conservative, and I think that is not a favorable mix for a candidate who has been a big government guy most of his life like Donald Trump.
Senator, you and I have spoken about this many, many times. You've been consistent in not taking the bait. The other day at a rally, Donald Trump, repeated a vulgar word that one of his supporters shouted out in the auditorium. Yet you didn't really respond in kind or roll around in the mud on that level. That seems to be a very consistent pattern on your part. I expect it's going to get pretty ugly in South Carolina. Do you stick to that strategy of not slinging mud back and forth with Mr. Trump?
Absolutely, Mike. As you know, that has been my approach from the beginning. So, as you mentioned, 2 days ago, Donald called me a profane insult. It was a vulgar term. And, sadly, that has been par for the course. That when Donald is losing, he gets rattled. And when he gets rattled, he begins throwing out insults, and they're often obscene or profane. One question I guess voters are going to have to ask is do you want to have a president who, when he's dismayed at something, starts cursing people out? I'm not sure people do. But Donald can choose to go down that road. I do not intend to respond in kind, and I have not. Indeed, I will sing Donald's praises. I like Donald Trump. He is bold and brash. I like him personally, and no matter what nasty insults get tossed my way, I'm not going to respond in kind. Instead, I'm going to focus on the issues and substance. Look, Donald and I have real differences on policy. Mm-hmm. For example, one of the biggest differences is on health care. Donald has said he wants to expand Obamacare to make it socialized medicine for everyone. It essentially, Bernie Sanders style, put the federal government in charge of your health care and my health care. Donald has described himself as, quote, very liberal on health care. Now, you and I both know in every place on earth where socialized medicine has been used, you end up seeing rationing. You see the government rationing and telling people a hip replacement, that's rationed. A knee replacement, that's rationed. End-of-life care, that's rationed. Donald is entitled to defend that position. It's the same as Bernie Sanders and Hillary Clinton. I think it's wrong, but he can defend that. Mm-hmm. But it's very different from where I am. If I'm elected president, Mike, mark my words, we will repeal every single word of Obamacare. So the voters of South Carolina are going to have a clear and meaningful choice. Do you want to repeal Obamacare? If so, vote for Ted. If you want to expand Obamacare and put the federal government in charge of your doctor, then you can vote for Donald Trump.
Fox Business is reporting that Chris Christie has dropped out of the race. He of course went home to New Jersey after New Hampshire to reassess. Does a typical Chris Christie supporter turn to Ted Cruz, or do they go somewhere else?
Yeah, I think actually a number of Chris Christie supporters might well come over to us. I certainly hope so, and hope to earn their support. One of the things that was attractive, I like Chris personally, and one of the things that was most attractive about him as a candidate was his experience in law enforcement, his experience as U.S. attorney, and people who were looking for someone who would be a tough commander-in-chief going after radical Islamic terrorism. Many of them were attracted to Chris Christie. That is very much my background. I'm now the only person remaining in the race that has a significant background in law enforcement, and one of the reasons why conservatives are uniting behind our campaign is that we're looking for a strong commander-in-chief who will stand up and utterly destroy ISIS, defeat radical Islamic terrorism, and that's, I think, a big part of the reason conservatives are coming behind our campaign.
It's going to be a big deal. South Carolina is really, in many ways, more important than New Hampshire. Would you agree?
South Carolina historically has played a critical role picking presidents, and I think Iowa and New Hampshire perform an incredibly important function of narrowing the field, and in many ways, this field is becoming a two-person race between me and Donald Trump. What Iowa and New Hampshire demonstrate is that the only person in this field who can beat Donald Trump is me, that the other candidates are not able to beat Donald Trump, and there's a reason, Mike. You can't beat Donald coming from the left. It doesn't work. If you campaign against Donald saying, hey, I'm more liberal than you, I'm more into amnesty than you, I'm going to be softer on radical Islamic terrorists than you, it doesn't work, as we've seen now twice in Iowa and New Hampshire. And so if the people of South Carolina think Donald Trump is not the right person to nominate in November and not the right person to be president, then I think we will continue to see the Reagan coalition coming together, coalescing behind our campaign, as the only candidate who has proven he is able to beat Donald Trump at the polls. And we have to nominate the strongest proven conservative in 2016 to win, to beat Hillary Clinton or Bernie Sanders and turn this country around. I think that's why people all over the country are going to tedcruz.org, tedcruz.org. They're contributing, they're volunteering, they're signing up, because we're coming together to get back to the Constitution, to kill the terrorists, repeal Obamacare, and defend the Constitution.
I think Bernie Sanders learned from you last night in plugging his website, because you guys, you're very good at it, and you get a lot of grassroots donations, so it's a great formula. I'm on my way. I'll be there in a few days, and I look forward to seeing you on the ground in South Carolina, Senator Cruz. Congratulations on Iowa and New Hampshire, and best of luck in South Carolina. We'll see you there.
Well, terrific. Thank you, Mike, and God bless.
God bless you. Senator Ted Cruz.